Hello there, welcome back everybody. This is the second video in our 2D Toolpaths Lesson 1, Part 1 series. In our first video, we come up with a rough process on how to hold the part, machine it, and such on. Got our stock size. And then we also selected our, got a good starting point for what tools we wanted to use. The setup and the process and all that, that'll kind of develop as we go. I found as I'm programming things, I change things, because I'll see things as I'm programming that I didn't see initially when I was looking at the part. So given that, let's get right to it. All right, let's go ahead and get started. First thing we need to do is select a machine. So we're going to come up here to the tabs at the top of the window, select machine. And then obviously we're milling, so we're going to select a mill. And then you've got a drop down menu here. Yours is going to look different than mine. It'll either not have anything in it. It'll just say default, especially if you've just downloaded Home Learning Edition and are following along in it. You should just be able to hit default, and then it's going to bring up just a default mill, which should be good enough for this. So once you've got that opened, it automatically goes straight to your Toolpaths menu or Toolpaths tab. So let's start adding tools. So you want to go to your tool manager. You see it right here, over here by the stock selection. All right. And what we want to do is we want to make sure we've got the tools highlighted. Your tool list is going to look different than mine. It should have some of the same common tools that what I'll be using. May not be named the same, but they'll be, and if they don't have a specific style of tool, I'll show you how to create one. So just want to go just the tools, and we're going to go over here to on the right side, the tool filter. And first tool we had on the list was a 2.5 inch face mill. So we're going to make sure we've got face mill highlighted, hit the OK button. And then we're going to look for a 2.5 inch face mill. So I don't have one, so we'll create one. I think I've got one here, but just for the fun of it, we'll go ahead and create one. So we're going to go back up to this. This is the window of the tools you're actually going to be using. So we're going to go create tool. Sometimes it does that on Mastercam. Windows will come up blank. We want face mill. We're going to click next. This is an 1.5 inch face mill that it defaults at. So we're going to go 2.5. And take note before I enter that in that it was an 1.5 inch. It's got a 1/4 inch cut length this way, if you look at my cursor. And the secondary diameter was 2 inches. So you're going to have a 1/4 inch per side because it's a 45-degree chamfer on it. So that 1.5 inch plus a 1/2 inch will be 2 inch diameter. So we're going to end up being a 3 inch diameter. And overall length's not a big deal. We're not going to worry about a holder or anything for this. We're just going to create this face mill. Now you can go next or finalize properties over here. And then, number of flutes and all that, we're just pretending we're machining something. So, we're going to run, this part was A36, just regular mild steel. So we'll start out at 350. We're just roughing right now, so let's do 5 thou flute. And for that size tool, there's typically maybe 5 flutes. So we'll just leave it just like that. Click finish, and see now we've got a tool in here. And this editing the tools is the same way. You just edit the tool. Click on it, right click, edit the tool. We wanted to name it, my special face mill, then that's what we could do. You can change the name and all that stuff. And all this stuff is pretty straightforward as far as, you know, if you've got specific tools you want to save. And if you wanted to save it to a library, you right click it the same way. And you do save assemblies to library. And what'll happen is it'll pop this up, and this is the default library that Mastercam uses, this mill underscore inch. And or you can pick a different library. You know, there's a whole bunch of them in here. But as long as you see what library you've got selected, you can do this here. If you want just the tool and not the tool and the holder, which we didn't add a holder, but you can just do tool and then you hit OK, and it should have added that tool in there. If we go back down here, see we've got the 2.5 inch face mill is in our library now. All right, next tool. We want a half inch end mill, but I want this to be a bull end mill with a corner radius. So we're looking for half inch diameter, and this is your corner radius here. So we're going to pick this one here. We're just going to add it. And notice how it kind of covered the other one up. I don't know why it does that. It does it sometimes. You can add a bunch of tools and then come back in here later and it'll show them all, but it's just something odd it does. I believe the tool 3 was going to be a 3/8 spot drill, so we're going to look for spot drill, find a 3/8, add it. So it did the same thing up here where it just, the other one disappeared, but I promise they're still there. Next tool is a 6mm drill. I don't have metric tools activated, but we'll find the closest equivalent, because this is just to get a starter hole. 236, so we're going to go 234. So that's a letter A drill. All right. Next tool's a 3/16 end mill. We can just use a sharp for this. We're going to look for 1875. We'll add that one. And then we're going to do half inch end mill. Okay, we're already there. Half inch sharp for finishing. And I was looking for 1.25" flute length. It may not be in here, so we're just going to pick half inch flat end mill, and we'll edit that later. And then we need a 3/4 inch end mill. I didn't mean to open that. So same thing, 1/4 inch flat end mill, add it. All right, so we've got all our tools selected. Yes. Still not showing all our tools. We can edit them as we go. So we've got some tools selected. What we need now is to start creating some geometry. So if we go to, let me make sure I'm not in the way on this. So let me move over. What we want to do first is like we discussed, first op is just going to be put the material in a vise on some parallels. We're going to skim that bottom face and then clean up 2 edges so we can flip it over and hold on something relatively flat and square. So what we need to sketch up our stock first. So let me move back over. Gonna go to our levels manager. And I like to put my stock on level 200. Don't ask me why, it's just where I put it. And we're gonna call that stock boundary. All right, and what that was, look back at my notes again, it's 4 3/4 by 3 inches by 1 inch thick. So what we can do is just create a rectangle, 0.75 by 3 inches. We'll just anchor it to center, and you can either hit O for origin, or you can turn on your hit F9 and turn on your view your axis, or you can go to view and select show axis there. Right now I got broken lines for line style. I want solid, and I like to make them a little bit thicker so it's easier to see. Hit OK. And what we're trying to do here is I just want to do simple 2D toolpaths is the whole point of this. This is definitely not a 2D part, and it's going to take some time to show some of the things I want to show, but I just want to show some quick, easy ways. If you're just starting out, this is the best way to, in my opinion, to learn Mastercam. Do it the hard way so that you know all the ins and outs of everything, and then you can come back and when you start using solids, you've got a better idea of you know what you need, because you can do solid chains and things like that off of the solid model, but you're still going to need certain wireframe geometry for certain toolpaths and things like that later on. So we've got our stock boundary, what we said we wanted to do, and it's drawn at the Z0 level. This will also get you what I was talking about as far as getting used to doing it this way. Is a little more difficult to, it gets your mindset more on in line of where your Z's need to be in the program and stuff, and it'll make a little bit more sense once we get more into it. All right, all we've got right now is just an outline of our stock, and what we want to do is just face it and skim 2 edges. So first thing we want to do is we're going to go to Toolpaths, and we're going to pick face, and I'll show you how to do this a couple different ways. All right, we want our face mill. Those feeds and speeds will be fine. Don't know if I'm going to get into that too much or not, but right now what we're going to do is we're going to leave everything how it's defaulted except for like our depths. Right now we're just going to start at 0, and then this will make it a little more clear once we get into what I was talking about, how to understanding your differences between incremental, absolute. Hardly ever use associative. That's something they added in later on. I don't ever use it. I like knowing, incremental. Incremental is more useful on probably on solids than it is really multi-axis more than anything. So we're going to stick to all absolute, except for our feed plane, all absolute numbers. You know, clearance is clearance. It's going to be, you know, how far it initiates after the tool change down to the part. So, you know, you're gonna move down. Let's put 4 inches in. It'll move down 4 inches above the part. Your retract, it'll move to your retract. Like if you did depth cuts, that's what it's going to do when it retracts. Now you can turn that off and it'll go all the way back up to clearance for each pass it does for depth cuts, or if you're just doing a one-way direction. And I'll show this a little bit more clear in a minute, but if you're just doing like one-way cuts with your face tool path, or you're facing, like we've got one way selected right now, that's what it defaults at. So what it's going to do is going to go across the part. It's going to come up, but it'll either come up, if you've got retract, it'll either come up to this 1/4 inch, or if you turn that off, it'll come all the way back up to 4 inches and then come across. So this is all about, you know, how you've got the part fixtured. You can tell it that you only use this at the start and the end. So if you're using this, then you need to have your retract selected. Otherwise, it'll come, when it comes back across to rapid to the next cut, it'll drag across the face of the part. So to make it clear, we're going to stick with 4 inches and 2 inches retract. And those are both absolute. Do 100,000th feed plane. And top of stock and depth, we'll leave it at 0 for right now. We're going to hit OK. All right. I'm going to backplot that. I'll go through certain toolpaths pretty thorough, and then some of them I'll just go through kind of fairly quick. But when you backplot, if you go, let me back up. If you hit this little down arrow here as you're backplotting, and you can hit S to progress it forward a step at a time, and B will carry you back. But as you're progressing, you can look and see where your numbers are in X, Y, and Z. So if you don't see a feed rate, then it's a rapid. The yellow line also represents a rapid. You can change all that stuff if you hit the little exclamation point right there. You can come in here and you can change all these colors. And there's a few other things you can set up in here. If you don't want it to, I know with circles it only does like endpoints, and I'll show you this later. If you're milling a hole, all you see is it's stay in that one point, the start and the end point in the hole. So if you want it to interpolate that hole, you can select interpolate, and you'll put 50 thousandths, 100 thousandths. So along that perimeter of that arc, it'll actually it'll show you that interpolation. I'll go back and forth on that because that, you know, when you're trying to run something like we're doing now, or if we leave it at 50 thousandths and step, it goes real slow. Or you can just bring it up here and, you know, drag it across, and it kind of goes through it that way. I think you can also highlight that, and then you're supposed to be able to use your mouse, but it actually zooms in and out at the same time, so I don't use that. So, or you can just hit play and it'll just play through it, and you can change your speed, slow it down, speed it up. All these things are different things you can play around with as you're following along. All right, so we're at least skimming the stock anyway. So the next thing we want to do is, let's go back and look at the drawing. The overall height of the part is 20 millimeters, or 787. So what we want to do, bring up our calculator. We've got 1 inch stock, so 1 inch minus 0.787. All right, so total stock we've got is 213,000. So let's go ahead and shoot for taking half of that off. So we're going to divide that by 2, and we want to leave some. So got 106 thousandths. So what we want to do is come back in here. Let's take that off for a minute. So we want to go minus 106, but we want to leave some. So what I'll do, this, I'll put, sometimes I'll do it either way. I'll do it here. I'll, you know, we'll say we want to leave 50 thousandths, so we'll only do it 56 thousandths deep. You can do it that way, or you can put minus 0.106 here and then go back to your cut parameters until it leaves stock. This is you know, if you come back and do this part later on, this kind of gives you an idea of what you were thinking. You can also say, you know, go in your comments and say rough face, leave 0.05 stock, not stay oak stock. That way when you run this, you go back and run this part again. If you run it again, you've got to give you an understanding of how you ran it the last time. All right, we don't want to take all 100 at one time. Let's do depth cuts so we get an idea of what that looks like. So let's do 105. You can see what that looks like. We don't need a finished cut, we're just roughing. Now you can see we're taking 2 cuts and we're going below the Z0. Turn interpolate off. Let's do endpoints. We'll just kind of get an idea. You can go one way. You can do zigzag. You can tell it to do different moves in between. You know, when you start playing around with this, the way I've got mine set right now is I've got all the width of the cutter and stuff built into the overlaps. If you start using this, you want to use, let's set it to 50%. 50%, not a cross overlap, that was more like 25. And do 60 and 60. And that actually didn't exit the part there. Change it to a high-speed loop and see what it looks like. I see it goes outside the part, but I think you have to be at 100 on the long. Yeah. You know, and it's all in how fast you want to, you know, you can do different things and it'll cut down on time. You know, best thing, I just stick with, this is my go-to preference. Don't want it to exit the part. Why is it doing that now? You always want to make sure you're not feeding down on top of the part. You can do, you do it like this, then you can get a little more time out of it. Basically, it's going to enter there, come down, and then you're not waiting on it to feed all the way off the part. And you can play around with that. So there's our face in Toolpath. And now what we want to do is clean up two edges. So we're going to do contour, and we just want to pick a single chain. So we got that chain and that chain. So let's select our 1/2 inch end mill. We won't worry about feeds and speeds right now. I don't necessarily need wear, but we'll leave it on there. I think most people use cutter comp. If you're doing control, wear, computer or not computer, but wear is what I normally use. And it'll actually program to the center of the tool. If you do control, it's going to mimic exactly like if you program point to point and then give it your either your tool diameter or the radius of the tool. I'll demonstrate that here in just a second. Let's go ahead and do this. We don't need to arc in. And I'll go back over this some here in just a second. All right, we went 106 deep. The next side we want to hold on is, we got 200 thousandths that we could probably go down. We're not going to get close to this. We're going to stay away from the actual edges, but we're just cleaning it up. So we'll probably go about 200 thousandths deep. So we're just going to put, we already went 106, so we'll just go minus 0.3. Same, your clearance and stuff applies the same way. We're going to do 4 inches and 2 inches. And if you want to see your toolpath, what it looks like before you close your window out, if you hit this button right here, it'll do a preview. So basically you can see where we come in, feed down, go across, it picks back up, and does the same on the other side. So basically that's what we want. Now we're skimming that stock, and this is the stock size. So what we're going to do is I'm going to come in here and, tell it minus 30 thousandths, and that'll cut 30 thousandths into this, into the stock. If we preview it again, you'll see it jumped over a little bit right there. We don't need multi-passes. We're just trying to clean it up. If we do control, I'm pretty sure if I preview that, yeah, you see how it shows it just like it's comping out. It actually shows this line is actually the program will post out point to point, like you were going from this point to this point, but then it shows what your comp looks like in the machine. You have to be careful with stuff like this. You need a whole lot more lead in and lead out for this, or it'll actually gouge into your part. That's why I like using wear and just go ahead and program it. Just go ahead and program it like it is, like I'm programming to the center of the tool. All right, so we've faced the part, faced the stock, skimmed 2 edges, and getting ready for the next operation. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna call it quits right here, because I think we've done spent about another 15-20 minutes on this video. Again, I'll leave a link to the previous video if you haven't watched it. You can go back and review it. Also, I'll leave a link in the video for the Google Drive where I've got these files saved, and you can download them and play around with them on your own time. Appreciate everybody watching. Please leave comments if you've got questions in the comment section below. Please subscribe, and please like the videos. It helps out. gets more attention. I want to be able to continue to be able to do stuff like this for, you know, guys at work and anybody else is interested in learning how to do this stuff. If I'm going too fast or I'm not covering enough stuff, please let me know, and I'll try to address stuff like that in future videos. And if there's something you just not understanding, I can go over that in intermediate videos and things like that. So please comment in the comment section, because it you know, it helps me understand if I'm doing a good job or not. With that, until next time, I'll see you guys later. Thanks.